The Cayenne Nebula was a graveyard of twisted metal and frozen bodies. Purple clouds of gas drifted between the remains of ships, both human and alien. The battle had ended 6 hours ago, but the silence felt heavy, like the universe itself was mourning. Park Tae-ho stood at the airlock of the human frigate Resolute, checking his suit one final time. He was 32 years old, with tired eyes and steady hands. As a combat medic, he had seen too much death. But he kept going. Someone had to. "Salvage team, you have 2 hours." Captain Bake Gina's voice crackled through the radio. "Grab anything useful. Intel, weapons, supplies, and stay alert. We don't know if any Valari survived." The Valari. Humanity's enemy for 11 long years. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and silver eyes. Their ships were elegant and deadly. Their soldiers were fierce, and they had killed millions of humans across dozens of colonies. Tae-ho hated this war. But he did his job. The shuttle carried his team through the debris field. Sergeant Choi Dong-hyun sat beside him, rifle ready. Dong-hyun was Tae-ho's best friend, a loud man with a quick temper and a loyal heart. "Another day picking through dead ships," Dong-hyun muttered. "I hate this part. Better than fighting," Tae-ho said quietly. The shuttle docked with the wreckage of a Valari cruiser. The ship was broken in half, its insides exposed to space. Emergency lights flickered weakly inside. Tae-ho's team moved carefully through the corridors. Bodies floated past them. Valari soldiers, engineers, crew members. All dead. Tae-ho looked at their faces and felt nothing but sadness. They were the enemy, yes, but they had families too. Dreams, hopes. "Found the command deck," one of the soldiers reported. "Downloading their navigation data now." Tae-ho nodded and continued his search. His job was to confirm there were no survivors who might pose a threat. He moved deeper into the ship, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then he heard it. A small sound. Weak. Frightened. Crying. Tae-ho froze. He listened carefully. The sound came from a collapsed section ahead. He climbed over broken metal and pushed through a damaged doorway. Inside was a small room, probably crew quarters. And there, trapped under a fallen beam, was a child. A Valari child. She was tiny, maybe 6 years old. Her pale blue skin was covered in dust and small cuts. Her silver eyes were wide with terror. She saw Tae-ho and screamed, trying to crawl away, but her leg was pinned. "Hey, hey," Tae-ho said softly, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child didn't understand his words. She kept crying, reaching toward something nearby. Tae-ho followed her gaze. A few meters away, a Valari woman lay unconscious. She wore a military uniform with commander markings. Blood pooled beneath her from a wound in her side. The child's mother. Tae-ho's radio crackled. "Tae-ho, what's your position?" "We're ready to leave." He looked at the crying child. He looked at the dying woman. Protocol was clear. Leave enemy combatants. Do not risk the mission. Do not bring threats aboard the ship. But the child's eyes held him frozen. They reminded him of someone. Someone he had lost long ago. "I found survivors," Tae-ho said into his radio. "A child and an injured adult. I'm bringing them back." "Taff." Silence. Then Dong-hyun's voice, sharp with disbelief. "The child is 6 years old, Dong-hyun. Maybe younger. She's scared and alone. She'll grow up to kill humans like the rest of them." Tae-ho closed his eyes. His sister had been 8 years old when the Valari bombed their colony. She never grew up at all. "I'm bringing them back," he repeated. He worked quickly. First, he freed the child, carefully lifting the beam off her leg. She whimpered but didn't scream again. Maybe she understood he was helping. Maybe she was too tired to fight. "It's okay," Tae-ho whispered. "I've got you." He set her down gently, then moved to the mother. The wound was bad but not fatal if treated soon. He applied emergency sealant and wrapped the injury tightly. The woman groaned, but didn't wake. Carrying an unconscious adult in zero gravity was difficult but possible. Taeho secured her to his back with straps from his kit. Then, he picked up the child, who clung to him with desperate strength. "Let's go home," he said. The walk back to the shuttle felt endless. His team stared at him like he had lost his mind. Donghyun refused to speak, but no one tried to stop him. When they returned to the Resolute, chaos erupted. Captain Gina was waiting at the airlock, her face tight with anger. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. "Survivors, Captain," Taeho said calmly. "A child and her mother. The mother is injured and needs immediate surgery. She's a Valari commander, Taeho. Do you understand what you've done? You've brought the enemy onto my ship. With respect, Captain. The child is not the enemy. She's 6 years old. She didn't start this war." Gina's jaw tightened. Around them, crew members watched in tense silence. "Take them to the brig," Gina ordered finally. "The mother goes into restraints. Post guards at all times." She stepped closer to Taeho, her voice dropping. "You and I will discuss this later. Privately." Taeho nodded. He carried the child toward the medical bay first, ignoring the stares and whispers around him. The little girl had stopped crying. She watched everything with wide, confused eyes. In the medical bay, Taeho treated the mother's wounds while the ship's doctor supervised. The surgery took 2 hours. When it was done, the woman was stable, but still unconscious. The child sat in a corner, knees pulled to her chest. She flinched whenever someone came near. Taeho approached slowly and knelt beside her. He pulled a ration bar from his pocket and offered it to her. She stared at it suspiciously. "It's food," he said gently. "You must be hungry." Slowly, carefully, she took it. She sniffed it first, then took a tiny bite. Her eyes widened slightly. She ate the rest quickly. Taeho smiled. "See? Not so bad." Later that night, guards moved the mother to the brig. The child went with her, refusing to be separated. Taeho watched them go, feeling the weight of his decision. Donghyun found him in the corridor. "You know this will end badly," Donghyun said. "Command will want to interrogate her. They'll use the child as leverage. You've just made everything more complicated." Quote. Donghyun. 8. Quote. "Maybe," Taeho admitted. "But I couldn't leave her there." Donghyun. "I couldn't watch a child die and do nothing." Donghyun sighed heavily. "You're a fool, Taeho. A damn fool." Probably, but as Taeho walked away, he didn't regret his choice. The child's eyes still haunted him, silver and full of fear. But now there was something else in them too, hope, and that was worth any trouble to come. Her eyes opened slowly. Everything was blurry at first. Then, the world came into focus, and she understood immediately. She was in a cell. Human technology surrounded her. The walls were gray and cold. Her wrists were bound in heavy restraints connected to the wall behind her. She was a prisoner. Yira pulled at the chains with all her strength. The metal groaned, but held firm. Pain shot through her side where her wound was still healing. She ignored it and pulled harder. "Stop that," a human guard said from outside the energy barrier. "You'll hurt yourself." Yira hissed at him, showing her teeth. "Where is my daughter? Where is Nayla?" The guard stepped back nervously, but didn't answer. Yira screamed. It was a sound of pure rage and terror. She pulled at the restraints so hard that blood began dripping from her wrists. Alarms started ringing somewhere in the ship. "Neela! Neela!" More guards arrived. They carried weapons and shouted at her to stop. Yira didn't care. She would tear this ship apart to find her child. Then, a new voice cut through the chaos. "Everyone, calm down." The guards parted. A human male walked through them. He was average height with kind eyes and a calm face. He carried no weapon. He walked directly to the energy barrier and looked at Yira without fear. Yira recognized him. He was the one from the wreckage. The one who had carried her. "Where is my daughter?" she demanded, her voice raw. "She's safe," the human said. "She's been asking for you. I can take you to her, if you stop hurting yourself." "Said." Yira froze. She searched his face for lies but found none. This confused her more than anything. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "You shouldn't," he admitted. "But your daughter is scared and alone, and she needs her mother. Isn't that more important than trust?" Yira stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she stopped pulling at the chains. Her body relaxed, though her eyes remained sharp and dangerous. "Take me to her." The human nodded to the guards. They lowered the energy barrier cautiously and released Yira's restraints. 4 guards surrounded her with weapons ready. But the human who had spoken walked beside her unarmed. "My name is Park Tae-ho," he said as they walked. "I'm a medic on this ship." Yira didn't respond. She focused on memorizing the corridors, counting guards, noting possible escape routes. But when they reached a small room and she saw Neela sitting inside, all her tactical thoughts vanished. "Mama." Neela ran into her arms. Yira dropped to her knees and held her daughter so tightly that Neela squeaked in protest. Tears rolled down Yira's face, though she didn't make a sound. "I thought I lost you," Yira whispered in their language. "I thought they had taken you from me." "The kind human helped me," Neela said, pointing at Tae-ho. "He gave me food and told me stories. He said you would wake up soon." Yira looked up at Tae-ho, who stood quietly by the door. Her emotions were a storm. Gratitude warred with suspicion. Relief battled against hatred. "Why?" she asked in the human language. "Why did you save us?" Tae-ho shrugged slightly. "Because she was scared and alone. That's enough." "That is not enough," Yira snapped. "Humans don't save Valari. You bomb our colonies. You murder our children. You are monsters." Pain flickered across Tae-ho's face, but he didn't argue. "Some humans are monsters. Some Valari are too. But I'm not. And neither is your daughter." Before Yira could respond, Captain Gina appeared in the doorway. She was an older woman with hard eyes and a commanding presence. She looked at Yira with cold calculation. "Commander Yira, of the Valari 4th Fleet," Gina said. "You have information we need. Fleet movements. Defense codes. If you cooperate, this will be easier for everyone." Yira stood slowly, keeping Neela behind her. "We'll see about that." Gina glanced at Tae-ho. "Medic. You're assigned to monitor the prisoners. Consider it your punishment for bringing them aboard. Maybe constant exposure will cure your sympathy." Tae-ho nodded without argument. Gina left, and the guards escorted Yira and Neela back to the cell. This time, Yira didn't fight. She had her daughter. Everything else could wait. Days passed slowly. Tae-ho came every morning and evening. He brought food, checked Yira's healing wound, and spent time with Neela. The child adored him. She showed him drawings she made on the floor with scratched marks. She asked endless questions about humans, about Earth, about everything. "Why is your skin that color?" Neela asked one day, touching Tae-ho's hand. "Humans come in many colors," Tae-ho explained patiently. "Just like how some Valari have darker blue skin than others." "Oh. Yes. Everyone has a mother. Where is your mother?" Tae-ho's expression shifted, becoming sad. "She died. A long time ago." Neela's silver eyes went wide. "I'm sorry. That's very sad." "It is. But she taught me to be kind before she went away. So I try to remember that." Yira listened to these conversations from her corner of the cell. She pretended not to care, but every word reached her ears. This human confused her. He didn't act like an enemy. He treated Neela with genuine warmth. He never threatened or manipulated. One evening, when Nayla was sleeping, Yira finally spoke to him directly. "You lost family in this war," she said. Teho sat on the other side of the energy barrier. He was quiet for a moment. "My sister. She was 8 years old. A Valari raid hit our colony. She didn't survive." Yira felt something cold settle in her chest. "Yes. I don't understand you, human." Teho looked at her with those tired, kind eyes. "My sister had eyes full of hope, bright and curious, like she believed the universe was good. When I found Neela in that wreckage, I saw the same thing. I couldn't let that light go out." "Thanks, Dan. I'm C11. So this is revenge?" Yira asked bitterly. "You save Valari children to prove you're better than us?" "No." Teho shook his head. "It's not about being better. It's about not becoming worse. I could have left Neela to die. I could have become the monster your people think I am. But what would that change? My sister would still be gone." Yira was silent for a long time. "In my culture," she finally said, "protecting a child creates a bond. A debt. You have done something that cannot be repaid. I don't want repayment. That is not the point." Yira's voice was sharp. "The bond exists whether you want it or not. You are tied to my blood now. This is troublesome." Teho almost smiled. "I've been called worse things than troublesome." Despite herself, Yira felt the corner of her mouth twitch. "Do not think this makes us allies," she warned. "When I escape this ship, I will return to my people. And the war will continue." "I know," Teho said. "But until then, maybe we can just be two people trying to keep a child safe." Yira looked at Nayla's sleeping form. Her daughter's face was peaceful, unaware of the chaos around her. For Neela's sake, Yira could tolerate this strange human. For now. "Very well," she said quietly. "For now." Teho nodded and stood to leave. At the door, he paused. "For what it's worth," he said, "I hope you do escape someday. I hope you get to take Neela home." Then, he was gone, leaving Yira alone with her sleeping daughter and her complicated thoughts. The ship continued its patrol through the nebula, avoiding major battles but staying alert. For the crew, life went on as normal. For Teho, normal had changed completely. Every day, he visited the cell where Yira and Nayla were held. Every day, Nayla waited for him at the energy barrier, her silver eyes bright with excitement. "Teho! Teho! You came back!" He always smiled at her enthusiasm. "Of course I did. Did you think I would forget?" Mama said humans forget things easily. Teho glanced at Yira, who sat in the corner with her arms crossed. She didn't look at him, but he could tell she was listening. "Your mama is very smart," Teho said carefully. "But some things are too important to forget." Nayla beamed. She pulled him toward a spot on the floor, where she had arranged small objects into patterns. Scraps of cloth, bits of broken equipment, anything she could find. "Look, I made a picture of our home world." Teho studied the arrangement. The objects formed a rough circle with smaller shapes around it. He couldn't understand Valari art, but Neela's pride was clear. "It's beautiful," he said honestly. "Tell me about your home," and she did. For the next hour, Neela described her world in excited, broken sentences. She talked about purple forests and silver lakes. She talked about festivals, where everyone danced under 3 moons. She talked about her favorite food, a sweet bread her grandmother made. Teho listened to every word. And across the cell, Yira listened too. When Neela finally tired herself out and fell asleep against Teho's side, Yira spoke. "You are patient with her. She's easy to be patient with." Yira finally looked at him directly. Her silver eyes were unreadable. "She asks about you constantly. When you're not here, she waits by the barrier. She has never trusted anyone so quickly." "Children see the world differently," Teho said quietly, careful not to wake Nayla. "They haven't learned to hate yet." Is that what you think? That hatred is learned, isn't it? Taeho met her gaze. Were you born hating humans? Or, did someone teach you? Yira's expression flickered. She was quiet for a long moment. My father was killed by humans, she finally said. I was 12 years old. A human patrol attacked his transport ship. No survivors. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was war. He knew the risks. Yira's voice was flat, emotionless. But yes, I learned to hate after that. I joined the military. I rose through the ranks. I killed many humans. I was good at it. She paused, looking at her sleeping daughter. And then Neela was born. Everything changed. Suddenly, the war felt different. Every battle was a risk. That she might lose her mother. Like I lost my father. Taeho understood completely. War changed when you had something precious to lose. What about Nayla's father? He asked carefully. Yira's face hardened. He died before she was born. Another battle. Another pointless death. I'm sorry, Taeho said again. He meant it. Yira studied him with new eyes. You say sorry often. Do you mean it? Always. Strange. Yira shook her head slowly. You are a very strange human. Park Taeho. Over the following days, something shifted between them. Yira began talking to Taeho during his visits. She shared small pieces of Valari culture. She explained their caste system, their honor codes, their beliefs about family and duty. In return, Taeho told her about Earth. He described blue skies and green forests. He talked about oceans so vast you couldn't see the other side. He told her about his childhood, about playing in the streets with his sister, about dreaming of the stars. You dreamed of space, Yira said one evening. And now, you are here, fighting a war you didn't choose. Life rarely goes as planned. No, it doesn't. Neela woke up and immediately demanded a story. This had become a ritual. Taeho would tell her tales from human folklore, simplifying them so she could understand. Tonight, he told her about a brave knight who rescued people from a terrible dragon. But why was the dragon terrible? Neela asked, confused. Maybe it was just lonely. Great. Taeho paused. He had never thought about it that way. Maybe you're right, he said. Maybe the dragon just needed a friend. I would be the dragon's friend, Neela declared. And then it wouldn't be terrible anymore. Yira made a soft sound. When Taeho looked at her, he was surprised to see her smiling. It was small, barely visible, but real. She has a kind heart, Yira said quietly. I hope the war doesn't change that. It doesn't have to, Taeho replied. Kindness is a choice. Every day, we choose who we want to be. Yira's smile faded, replaced by something thoughtful. Is that what you believe? I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point? Before Yira could respond, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Sergeant Donghyun appeared at the cell entrance. His face was tense, unhappy. Taeho, Captain wants you. Now. Taeho nodded and stood carefully, moving Neela's sleeping form to a comfortable position. He looked at Yira. I'll be back. I know. He followed Donghyun through the ship's corridors. You're getting too close to them. I'm doing my job. Watching prisoners isn't supposed to include story time and cultural exchange. Donghyun's voice was bitter. People are talking. Taeho. They say you've gone soft. They say you've forgotten which side you're on. I haven't forgotten anything. Taeho kept his voice calm. I just refuse to treat a child like an enemy. The mother is an enemy. She's killed our people. Dozens, maybe hundreds. And our people have killed hers. That's what war does. But I won't punish a 6-year-old for sins she didn't commit. Donghyun grabbed his arm, stopping him. His eyes were hard but also worried. I'm your friend, Taeho. I'm trying to protect you. Fleet Command is getting impatient. They want information from that Valari commander, and if you keep defending her, you'll go down with her. Teho met his friend's gaze steadily. Then I'll go down doing what's right. Can you say the same? Dongyun released him slowly. Something complicated passed across his face. Just be careful, he said finally. They reached the captain's quarters. Gina was waiting inside, along with a woman Teho didn't recognize. She wore an intelligence division uniform, and her eyes were cold as ice. Medic Park, Gina said formally. This is Lieutenant Kwan Sarah, from Fleet Intelligence. She has questions about the prisoners. Sarah stepped forward. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I've heard interesting things about you, Medic Park. They say you've developed quite a rapport with Commander Yira. I've followed my orders, Teho replied carefully. Nothing more, of course. Sarah's smile widened. And I'm sure that rapport will be useful. Because starting tomorrow, the real interrogation begins. A chill ran down Teho's spine. He looked at Captain Gina, hoping for something. Anything. But her face was stone. The storm was coming, and Teho didn't know how to stop it. The next morning, guards dragged Yira from her cell, while Nayla screamed and reached for her mother. Teho watched helplessly as they separated them, taking Yira to an interrogation room deep in the ship. Mama! Mama! Neela's cries echoed through the corridor. Teho ran to her and pulled her into his arms. She clung to him desperately, sobbing against his shoulder. It's okay, he whispered, though he knew it wasn't. It's going to be okay. For hours, Teho waited with Neela. He held her, told her stories, did everything he could to distract her. But the child wouldn't stop trembling. She knew something terrible was happening. When Yira finally returned, Teho's blood ran cold. She could barely walk. Guards half-carried her back to the cell. Her face was bruised, her lips split. She moved like every bone in her body ached. But her eyes were still fierce, still defiant. Mama! Neela ran to her as soon as the barrier lowered. Yira collapsed to her knees and held her daughter. She stroked Neela's hair with shaking hands. I'm here, little one. Teho approached the barrier. What did they do to you? Yira looked up at him. Despite her injuries, she almost smiled. The usual human hospitality. Questions I won't answer. Pain when I refuse. This is wrong. Teho's hands curled into fists. This isn't how we should be. Endi. This is war, Teho. Did you forget? He hadn't forgotten. But seeing Yira broken and bleeding made him realize something important. He couldn't stand by anymore. He couldn't watch and do nothing. Over the next 3 days, the interrogations continued. Each time, Yira returned more damaged than before. Sira was skilled at causing pain without causing permanent harm. She knew exactly how far to push, but Yira never broke. She gave them nothing. On the 4th day, everything changed. Teho was delivering food to the cell when he heard Sira's voice around the corner. He stopped and listened. The commander is stronger than expected, Sira was saying to someone. Traditional methods aren't working. We need leverage. What kind of leverage? Another voice asked. The child. We transfer her to a military research facility. Make the mother watch her daughter disappear. She'll talk after that. Quote, 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 quote. Ice filled Teho's veins. They were going to use Nayla. They were going to take her away and use her as a weapon against her own mother. He couldn't let that happen. Teho walked away quietly, his mind racing. He needed help. He needed options. But who could he trust? That night, he made a decision that would change everything. Using his medical access codes, Teho entered the ship's communication center. It was risky. If anyone caught him, he would be charged with treason. But some things were more important than safety. He sent a coded message into the void. The recipient was Elder Consul Mira, a Valari diplomat known for seeking peace. Teho had heard rumors about her faction. about their desire to end the war through negotiation. His message was simple. He had Commander Yira and her daughter. Fleet Command planned to use the child as leverage. If the Valari wanted them back safely, they should respond. Then he waited. 2 days passed with no answer. Sierra's threats grew more specific. Captain Gina looked increasingly uncomfortable but refused to intervene. The transfer order for Neela was already being processed. Tejo visited Yira's cell on what might be their last night together. Yira sat against the wall, Neela sleeping in her lap. The bruises on her face had faded to yellow and purple. She looked exhausted but unbroken. "They're taking her tomorrow," Yira said quietly. "I know." Tejo's voice was thick. "I'm trying to stop it." Yira studied him for a long moment. "Why? Why do you keep fighting for us?" "Because it's right." Tejo sat down on his side of the barrier. "Because using a child as a weapon is something monsters do. And I refuse to be a monster." Tejo sat down. "Even if it costs you everything? Some things are worth more than my career, than my freedom, than my life." Yira was silent. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than he had ever heard. "Among my people, such sacrifice is called soul debt. It means someone has given so much that their soul becomes tied to yours forever. You have created a soul debt. Park, Tejo. I don't know how to repay it. I told you before." "I know. That's what makes it worse." They sat together in silence, watching Neela sleep. The child's face was peaceful, innocent, unaware of the danger approaching. At midnight, Tejo's personal communicator buzzed. He checked it secretly. A response had come. Elder Consul Mira agreed to negotiations. She proposed an exchange at a neutral location. Yira and Neela's freedom, in return for a formal ceasefire discussion. Hope surged through Tejo's chest. But there was still one massive problem. How could he make this happen without revealing what he had done? He went to Captain Gina. She was awake, working at her desk, despite the late hour. She looked up when Tejo entered, her expression immediately suspicious. "Medic Park. This is unusual. I need to tell you something, Captain, and you're going to be angry." Gina's eyes narrowed. "I'm already angry. Spit it out." Tejo took a deep breath and told her everything. The message he sent. The response from Elder Consul Mira. The proposed exchange. When he finished, Gina stared at him in absolute silence. Her face was impossible to read. "You contacted the enemy," she finally said. "Without authorization. Without approval. You committed treason." "Yes. I should have you arrested. Executed, maybe." "Yes." Gina stood up slowly. She walked around her desk until she was standing right in front of Tejo. For a long moment, she just looked at him. Then she sighed heavily. "You're an idiot, Park Tejo. A complete and total idiot." She paused. "But you might also be the bravest person on this ship." Tejo blinked. "Captain, Sarah's methods disgust me. Using children as weapons disgusts me. But I follow orders. That's what soldiers do." Gina's voice hardened. "You, on the other hand, followed your conscience. And somehow, you've created an opportunity for peace talks that our politicians have failed to achieve for 11 years. She walked back to her desk and began typing rapidly. "I'm going to present this to Fleet Command as a strategic decision. A prisoner exchange that opens diplomatic channels. Your name stays out of it. Officially, this was my idea. Captain, I can't let you take that risk. You don't have a choice." Gina glanced at him sharply. "This is me, protecting my crew. Even the stupid ones who commit treason for good reasons." Tejo felt something tight in his chest release. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to make this work." Gina's expression softened slightly. "Now, go tell Commander Yira. I imagine she'll want to know her daughter is safe." Tejo ran to the cell faster than he had ever run before. When he reached it, Yira was awake and alert, sensing something had changed. What happened? Tejo smiled. You're going home. Long ago, it had been a trading post. Now, it was just metal and dust, abandoned when the war began. Neither side wanted it. That made it perfect for this meeting. The Resolute approached slowly, weapons ready but not armed. Across the void, a Valari diplomatic vessel did the same. Both ships stopped at a safe distance from each other. Tejo stood in the shuttle bay with Yira and Nayla. The child held her mother's hand tightly, looking around with wide eyes. She had never been outside the cell since coming aboard. Are we really going home, Mama? Yes, little one. We're really going home. Captain Gina approached them, her face formal but not unkind. Commander Yira. The terms have been agreed. You and your daughter will be released to the Valari delegation. In exchange, Elder Consul Mira will begin formal ceasefire discussions with our fleet command. Yira nodded stiffly. I understand. One more thing. Gina looked at Tejo. Medic Park will accompany you to the station as a sign of good faith. He'll return once the exchange is complete. This wasn't part of the original plan. Tejo looked at Gina questioningly, but she just gave him a small nod. Trust me, her eyes said. The shuttle ride to the station was tense. Yira sat rigidly, holding Nayla close. Tejo piloted carefully, watching for any signs of ambush. But nothing happened. The station loomed ahead, dark and silent. They docked in a dusty bay and stepped out into the abandoned structure. Emergency lights flickered weakly. The air was stale but breathable. On the other side of the bay, a door opened. Valari soldiers emerged first, weapons raised. Behind them came a tall female Valari with elaborate robes and an air of authority. Her skin was pale blue, almost white, and her silver eyes held ancient wisdom. Elder Consul Mira. She studied the humans with keen interest, before her gaze settled on Yira and Neela. Commander Yira of the Fourth Fleet. You have been through much. Yira stood straighter despite her lingering injuries. I survived. That is enough. Mira nodded slowly. Then her attention shifted to Tejo. She examined him like a scientist studying a strange specimen. And you must be the human who started all this. Park Tejo, the medic who saved enemy prisoners and risked everything to protect them. Tejo wasn't sure how to respond. I did what I believed was right. Interesting. Mira's expression was unreadable. You know that many of my people want you dead? They consider your kindness an insult. A trick. I know, and yet you came here anyway. Unarmed, vulnerable. Mira tilted her head. Either you are very brave, or very foolish. Probably both. Tejo admitted. Something like amusement flickered in Mira's eyes. She turned to Yira. You know this human better than I do, Commander. What is your judgment? Yira hesitated. She looked at Tejo, and something complicated passed across her face. He is unlike any human I have known, she said finally. He saved my daughter without expecting reward. He protected us at great personal cost. He acted with honor when his own people wanted cruelty. Mira listened carefully. And what do you intend to do about this? Yira took a deep breath. Then she did something completely unexpected. She stepped forward and placed her hand on Tejo's chest, directly over his heart. Her touch was firm and ceremonial. When she spoke, her voice rang through the silent station. By the ancient rights of my bloodline, I declare this human a sworn guardian of House Yira. His soul is bound to mine. His honor is my honor. His protection is my duty, as mine is his. The Valari soldiers gasped. Mira's eyes widened slightly. Even Captain Gina, watching through the shuttle's camera, made a sound of surprise. Tejo stood frozen. What does that mean? Mira answered, her voice careful. It means Commander Yira has done something extraordinary. The sworn guardian bond is one of the most sacred rites in Valari culture. It is typically reserved for family members. Outsiders are never included. Until now, Yira said firmly. She looked at Teho with fierce determination. You gave everything to protect my child. You created a soul debt that cannot be repaid. This is my answer. You are no longer a stranger to my blood. You are bound to us forever. Neela's face lit up with joy. Does this mean Teho is family now? Yes, little one, he is family. Teho felt the world tilting around him. He had expected to say goodbye. He had expected to return to his ship and continue the war. He had not expected this. I don't know what to say, he managed. You don't have to say anything. Yira's hand remained on his chest. But I offer you a choice. You can return to your ship and your people. The bond will still exist, but we will be apart. Or, she paused, her silver eyes searching his face, or you can come with us to the Valari homeworld, as an honored guest, as Nayla's guardian, as a bridge between our peoples, as an honored guest, As an honored guest, The weight of the choice pressed down on Teho. Leave everything he knew? Join the enemy he had fought for years? It was insane, but then he felt Nayla's small hand slip into his. She looked up at him with those bright silver eyes, full of hope and trust. Please come with us, Teho. Please, Mira spoke quietly. This is not a decision to make lightly. Your presence among us would be controversial. Many would oppose it. But it would also be a powerful symbol, proof that humans and Valari can choose peace over war. Captain Gina's voice crackled through Teho's communicator. Teho, whatever you decide, I want you to know something. You've already done more for peace than 100 battles. I won't think less of you either way. Teho looked at Yira, at Nayla, at the vast distance between two worlds that had been at war for over a decade. I need time, he said finally. I need to think. Yira nodded, lowering her hand. Of course. The bond doesn't require your immediate presence. But the offer stands. Always. The exchange proceeded as planned. Yira and Neela crossed to the Valari side. Mira confirmed that ceasefire discussions would begin within the week. Both parties agreed to withdraw, without hostility. But before boarding the Valari ship, Nayla broke free from her mother and ran back to Teho. She threw her arms around him and hugged him tightly. You'll come, won't you? She whispered. You won't forget us? Teho knelt down and held her gently. I could never forget you, Neela. Ever. Promise. I promise. She pulled back, tears shining in her eyes but a smile on her face. Then, she ran back to her mother. Yira stood at the doorway of the Valari ship, watching Teho with an expression he couldn't quite read. Then she raised her hand in a gesture that might have been farewell, or might have been something more. The door closed. The ships departed, and Teho was left standing alone in the empty station, the weight of an impossible choice pressing on his heart. Teho walked through corridors he had traveled 1,000 times. He knew every panel, every doorway, every scratch on the walls. This ship had been his home for 5 years. The crew was his family. But something had changed. He had changed. 3 days had passed since the exchange. The ceasefire discussions were underway. For the first time, in 11 years, humans and Valari were talking instead of fighting. News spread quickly through the fleet. Some soldiers celebrated. Others were suspicious. Teho didn't know what to feel. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at the small items he had collected over the years. A photograph of his family, taken before the war. His sister's hairpin, the only thing that survived the colony attack. A medal he had earned for saving lives under fire. These things defined who he was. A human. A soldier. A medic. But now, there was something else pulling at him. A bond he hadn't asked for, but couldn't deny. A promise he had made to a child with silver eyes. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Donghyun entered. He looked tired, older than his years. He sat down heavily on the edge of Teho's bed. I heard about what happened at the station, Dongyun said. The whole ship's talking about it. The Valari commander making you part of her family or whatever. Word travels fast. It's a small ship. Dongyun was quiet for a moment. So, what are you going to do? Taeho didn't answer immediately. He turned the hairpin over in his hands, remembering his sister's laugh. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me wants to stay here. This is my home. You're my brother in everything but blood. How can I leave that? And the other part? Taeho closed his eyes. The other part keeps seeing Nayla's face. Keeps hearing her ask me to come with them. She's just a child. Dongyun. She didn't choose this war. She doesn't understand why our peoples hate each other. Dongyun's expression hardened. She's Valari. Taeho. Her people killed millions of ours. They killed your sister. I know. Then how can you even consider this? Taeho looked at his friend directly. Because hatred is a cycle. Someone has to break it. Someone has to be brave enough to choose something different. Donghyun stood up abruptly, pacing the small room. His hands curled into fists. You're talking about leaving everything. Your people. Your duty. Your honor. For what? An alien woman and her child? For peace. Taeho's voice was calm, but firm. For the chance that Nayla grows up in a universe where humans and Valari don't have to be enemies. For the possibility that my sister's death wasn't meaningless. Dongyun stopped pacing. His anger seemed to drain away, replaced by something sadder. I don't understand you, Taeho. I've never understood you. When everyone else runs from danger, you run toward it. When everyone else chooses hate, you choose kindness. He shook his head slowly. You're the best person I know. And sometimes, I think you're also the most foolish. Can't I be both? Despite everything, Donghyun laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. But real. Yeah, you can. He walked to the door, then paused. If you go, I won't pretend to support it. But I won't stop you either. You've earned the right to make your own choices. Thank you, brother. Dongyun nodded once, sharply. Then he was gone. Taeho sat alone again, but the silence felt different now. Lighter, like a weight was lifting from his shoulders. Meanwhile, across the vast distance of space, Yira faced her own battles. She had returned to the Valari homeworld as a hero and a disgrace. Some praised her for surviving human captivity without breaking. Others condemned her for the bond she had created with a human. The political situation was complicated. Elder Consul Mira's peace faction had gained strength from the ceasefire talks. But hardliners pushed back fiercely. They called the negotiations weakness. They called Yira a traitor. One evening, a group of military officers confronted her in the council halls. You shame us all. The leader spat. Binding your blood to a human? Our ancestors would weep. Yira stood tall despite their aggression. Neela was safe at home with guards. That was all that mattered. That human saved my daughter when he had every reason to let her die, Yira said coldly. He showed more honor than any of you have ever shown me. Honor? The officer laughed harshly. Humans don't understand honor. They are animals. Then perhaps we should ask why an animal was more merciful than our own people would have been. The confrontation ended without violence. But Yira knew her position was dangerous. She had powerful enemies now. The only way forward was to prove that her choice had been right. She needed Taeho to accept the bond. Days passed. Yira tried to focus on Neela, on rebuilding their life, on supporting Mira's diplomatic efforts. But part of her kept wondering, would he come? Would the human who had saved her daughter have the courage to cross the final distance? On the 8th day, a message arrived. It was transmitted through official diplomatic channels, short and simple. 3 words that changed everything. I'm on my way. Yira read the message 3 times. Her hands were trembling. She didn't know what she felt. Relief? Fear? Hope? All of those. And something else. Something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Neela burst into the room, having somehow learned the news already. Children always knew. He's coming? Taeho is coming? Yes, little one, he's coming. Neela screamed with joy and danced around the room. Yira watched her daughter, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to smile without restraint. The war wasn't over. The hardliners would cause trouble. The path ahead was uncertain and dangerous. But Park Taeho had made his choice. He was leaving his world behind to build a bridge between two peoples who had only known hatred. It was brave. It was foolish. It was exactly what Yira had hoped for. On the Resolute, Taeho packed his few belongings. The hairpin went into his pocket, close to his heart. He left the medal behind. Captain Gina met him at the shuttle bay. Her face was unreadable as always, but her handshake was firm. "You're doing something no human has ever done," she said. "Living among the Valari. Representing our species. It won't be easy. I know. You'll face hostility. Suspicion. Maybe violence. I know." Gina's expression softened slightly. "Then why are you going?" Taeho thought about the question. He thought about Nayla's hope, about Yira's strength, about the cycle of hatred that had consumed both their peoples for over a decade. "Because someone has to take the first step," he said finally. "Someone has to prove that peace is possible. And if not me, then who?" Gina was silent for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She pulled Taeho into a brief, fierce hug. "Make us proud, Medic Park." "I'll try, Captain." The shuttle launched into the stars, carrying one human toward an uncertain future among aliens. But for the first time in a very long time, Taeho felt like he was heading home. The planet was beautiful, in ways he had never imagined. Purple forests stretched to every horizon. Silver lakes reflected 3 moons at night. The cities were elegant towers of crystal and light, so different from the metal and concrete of human worlds. But beauty didn't mean acceptance. Taeho's days were difficult. Many Valari refused to look at him. Some whispered insults as he passed. A few had even tried to attack him, only to be stopped by Yira's guards. He was a stranger in a world that didn't want him, yet he stayed. For Neela. For the chance at peace. For the promise he had made. Neela was his constant companion. She showed him everything with endless enthusiasm. She taught him Valari words, introduced him to strange foods, and explained customs he didn't understand. "This is a welcome dance," she told him one morning, demonstrating a complex series of movements. "We do it when someone important visits. You should learn it." Taeho laughed and tried to follow along. He failed badly. Nayla giggled and corrected his mistakes. "No, no. Your arms go up, not out. Like you're catching the sky." These moments kept Taeho going. Nayla's joy reminded him why he was here, why it mattered. Yira was more difficult to read. She treated Taeho with respect and protected him from threats. She included him in household decisions and introduced him to important visitors. But there was always a distance between them, a wall that neither quite knew how to cross. One evening, Taeho found her alone on the balcony of their shared residence. The 3 moons were rising, casting silver light across her face. She looked tired, worried. "May I join you?" Taeho asked. Yira nodded without speaking. They stood in silence for a while, watching the moons climb higher. The sounds of the city drifted up from below. Strange music, voices, the hum of alien technology. "There's been another protest," Yira said finally. "Outside the council halls. They're calling for the peace talks to end. For your removal." "I know. I saw it on the news feeds." "You're not angry," Taeho shrugged. "Anger won't change their minds. Only time and patience can do that." Yira turned to look at him properly. Her silver eyes searched his face. "How do you stay so calm?" "They hate you. Many of my own people want you dead. Yet you smile and teach my daughter human songs and act like everything is normal. Because to Neela, it is normal." Teho smiled softly. She doesn't see species, or history, or politics. She just sees someone who cares about her. If I can give her that, the rest doesn't matter. Yira was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was different, vulnerable. I don't understand you, Park Teho. I've spent 6 months trying to understand you, and I still can't. Maybe you don't need to understand me. Maybe you just need to trust me. Trust. Yira almost laughed. Trust is difficult after so many years of war. I know. But we've already come so far. Teho turned to face her fully. 6 months ago, you were my prisoner. Now, I live in your home. I help raise your daughter. The peace talks are actually progressing. That seemed impossible before. It still seems impossible sometimes. Then let's make it possible together. Yira stared at him. Something shifted in her expression. The wall between them seemed to crack. Just slightly. You are the strangest being I have ever known, she said quietly. I'll take that as a compliment. This time, Yira actually smiled. It was small and brief, but real. The weeks that followed brought challenges and small victories. Elder Consul Mira successfully negotiated a formal armistice. The fighting stopped across all sectors. It wasn't peace yet, but it was closer than anyone had dreamed. Teho was invited to speak before the Valari Council. He told them about his sister, about the war that had taken so much from both peoples, about the choice he had made to seek something better. I am not here because I forgot the past, he said to the assembled leaders. I am here because I believe in the future, a future where children like my sister and children like Neela don't have to grow up in fear. A future where we choose understanding over hatred. Not everyone was convinced, but some listened. Some began to question old beliefs. That was enough. Meanwhile, the first human diplomatic delegation prepared to visit the Valari homeworld. It would be the most significant moment in the peace process. A symbol that both species were ready to move forward. Teho watched from the balcony as their ship descended through the atmosphere. Neela stood beside him, bouncing with excitement. More humans. Will they be nice like you? I hope so. I'll show them the welcome dance. I've been practicing. Teho laughed and ruffled her hair. I'm sure they'll love it. Yira joined them, her expression thoughtful. She watched the ship land in the distance, then turned to Teho. You did this, she said. All of this. The peace talks, the armistice, the delegation. None of it would have happened without you. I just made a choice. Other people did the hard work. Don't pretend to be humble. Yira's voice held a hint of warmth. It doesn't suit you. Teho smiled. Fine. I'm amazing. Is that better? Yira rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too. Later that evening, after Neela had gone to bed, Yira and Teho sat together on the balcony again. It had become their ritual. A quiet moment at the end of each day. I never thanked you properly, Yira said, for believing that peace was possible when no one else did. You don't need to thank me. I know. But I want to. Yira paused, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. I spent so many years hating humans, believing you were all monsters, and then you crawled through burning wreckage to save my daughter. You showed me that everything I believed was wrong. Not everything, Teho said gently. There are monsters on both sides, but there are good people too. We just have to find them. Yira reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had touched him voluntarily since the bonding ceremony. Her skin was cool, but not unpleasant. I think I've found one, she said quietly. Teho felt his heart beat faster. He wasn't sure what this moment meant, what it could become, but he knew it was important. So have I, he replied. They sat together in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the 3 moons rise over a world that was finally starting to heal. In the distance, lights from the human delegation glowed in the night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new negotiations, new chances to build bridges. But for now, this moment was enough. Neela appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. I couldn't sleep. Yira smiled and held out her free arm. Come here, little one. Neela crawled into her mother's lap and reached for Tejo's hand too. The three of them sat together, watching the sky. Look. Neela pointed upward. A falling star. We should make a wish. Tejo closed his eyes. He thought about his sister, about the past he couldn't change, about the future he was helping to build. He wished for peace, real peace. Not just the absence of war, but understanding between two peoples who had forgotten how to see each other as anything but enemies. When he opened his eyes, Yira was watching him. What did you wish for? She asked. Tejo smiled and squeezed her hand gently. Something worth fighting for. The moons continued their slow journey across the sky. The city hummed quietly below. And for the first time in 11 years, the galaxy felt a little less broken. This wasn't the end. There would be more struggles ahead, more enemies, more doubts, more impossible choices. But there was also hope, and sometimes, hope was all you needed.